I've got a great tip for you today that you're going to want to watch, and I'm going to get into it right off the bat. No teasing. About 18 years ago, I went to a conference, and this guy was an expert on behavior and how people behaved and why they did what they did. And he broke down something that was so profound, it totally changed me. And I want to share that with you because I thought it was going to be this long, big presentation, and it took him about 5 minutes, and then he just answered questions. So let's get into what he showed me.
And what he showed me on this day was that as happiness goes down, poor behavior goes up. So here, this is your poor behavior. And right here is your happiness. And notice up here in the beginning, you have a lot of happiness, but as that goes down, your poor behavior goes up. Down here, you have very little poor behavior when you have high happiness, but as your happiness goes down, your poor behavior goes up. So there's an inverse relationship here, and this was so monumental to me because it showed me why people were acting up, why they were unhappy, what was going on, and what was the root of their poor behavior.
No surprise here that unhappy people act out. And I'm not condoning it. I'm not giving it an excuse. I'm just trying to explain why they would be behaving the way they do, okay? Now, they're feeling trapped. Something about them feels trapped, and they feel powerless, and also they feel disconnected. When I worked in the prison, there was a saying that people would say, and that was, we're going to slow walk this. Usually inmates would say that they're going to slow walk this. So they're doing it, but it's going to be really take their time. They're going to try to inflict as much pain and just slow this whole process down as much as possible. And they're slow walking it because they feel fundamentally powerless. And you can imagine that is true in a prison. You're going to not feel like you have a lot of power. But outside prison, a lot of us act the same way. We feel that we don't have control, we don't have power, and then we kind of slow walk life. We don't jump on it. We don't get going. We procrastinate. An example for me when I felt really unhappy and I was acting out was when I was in middle school. In there, they had different tracks, A, B, C, and D. I was in D track. That was primarily kids that were either slower or they got pushed back or held back, things like that. And so it was a lot of kids that had, I would say, trouble or struggles with school. And I was right in there. I was struggling with school. But I wasn't necessarily causing mischief or misbehavior. But after a while, when you're so miserable, you're getting accused of things all the time. The principals and administration, they would call out the D-Track students, the D-Track boys in particular, and say, I know you guys did this. I know you guys are causing trouble, and you're not going to get this or that, taking away privileges. And finally, what I started doing is I was like, well, if I'm going to get busted for all this stuff, I might as well start doing it. And I'm not condoning it, but I would have never even been receptive to that if I would have been happy, if I would have been enjoying school, if I would have been enjoying my experience there. I wouldn't have even gone down that path. But because I was around other people who were miserable, I was miserable, I didn't do well in school, especially middle school, it led me to start doing things that I'm not proud of today. And I'm not trying to condone this or make excuses. I'm just trying to show you that when people are unhappy, and it could take anybody, they're going to act up and they're going to have misbehavior. Now, the misbehavior as an adult might look different than it does as a student, but it's still that behavior that is not productive, that's not helpful, that's not moving your life forward, that's not building deeper connections with other people. Next, have you ever thought of what actually makes us happy? Researchers looked into this. They were Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, and they looked at what is it that makes us happy, what makes us unhappy, and they came up with the self-determination theory. And there's 3 parts to that, and I found it very true. The first part is autonomy. You need to have some independence, some autonomy in your life. And if you feel that you don't have autonomy, then that's going to be a major area where you're going to feel frustration and probably have some poor behavior. And again, as an adult, your poor behavior might be procrastination. It might be a bad attitude. It might look different than when you were younger, but again, do you feel that you have autonomy in your life? And autonomy is really about control. Do you feel like you're in control, or you have some elements of control, or do you feel like this is just all happening to me and I don't have control? You're more likely to be acting out. The next one is competence. If you are competent in something, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to feel happier. And it also leads to progress. When you are putting one skill on top of another skill on top of another skill, and you're doing mastery stacking, you're stacking one skill on top of another, and you're feeling really competent, then you're going to feel happy. If you don't feel competent, if you feel incompetent, that's going to really erode your happiness. And it's going to be something that, unless you start taking the steps to get better, to improving, you're not going to just magically feel happier if you completely suck. Like for me, if there's things that I was bad at, like at one time, I wouldn't even touch technology. I wouldn't even touch video, anything like this. And now I feel like, okay, maybe I'm not the best of the best, but I have mastered a lot of things and I'm getting better and better and better. And that's where that progress comes in. But if you're doing something and you don't feel competent, that's really going to affect your happiness. The third area that they found was relatedness. Do you relate to others? Do you connect to others? Do you feel a deep, meaningful connection in what you're doing? And is that with other people too? Or do you just feel like you're an isolated island? You don't really interact with people, you don't connect with them, then you're going to struggle and you're going to probably feel unhappy. So that's what they found. Deci and Ryan, they found that these 3 areas, autonomy, are you in control? Do you feel a sense of control? Because if you don't feel in control, you're going to act out. Second was competence. Do you feel confident? Do you know what you're doing? Do you feel like, yes, I have this down, I have mastery? Do you feel like you're making progress and improving or not? If you're not making progress, if you're not improving, if things aren't going in a direction that you are happy about, then you're going to give up. And when you give up, that is not a way to be happy. I don't know anyone that gave their way up to success or gave their way up to happiness. You need to be achieving something, striving it, even if it is like, how can I be more calm? How can I be more connected to myself? How can I be more grounded? But you need to be making progress. If not, you're probably going to be feeling unhappy. And the third one was relatedness. So do you feel connected to others or not? If you feel no connection, you're going to become defensive and you're also going to be distant from others. So look at those 3 areas in your life. Am I being distant and defensive? Am I feeling like I'm not making progress and I don't have any control over my life? Those 3 areas. Then you're probably going to be unhappy. And then look at your behavior. Is your behavior something that, if I was on the internet, they're showing me live, would I be proud of that? Or would I be like, good golly, I act up a lot, or I procrastinate a lot, or these types of behaviors that are not actually productive? Let's look at why rewards and punishment often backfire. I found this really fascinating. There was a study where they looked at little kids and the toys that they had. It could be little toy cars or whatever it might be. And they started rewarding them for playing with their favorite toy. You would think, okay, that's the best of both worlds, right? It's a toy I love and I'm getting rewarded for it. But what they found is that these young people, once they started getting rewarded for it, they kind of lost interest in it and they didn't like it as much. And when they looked a little deeper, and these were little kids, so they can't really explain everything, but there was something going on in the back of their mind where, if I'm having to get rewarded for playing with this toy, is this toy really that good? Was it my idea to like this toy or not? So when you're looking at yourself, are you extrinsically motivated? Have you had things that you love, but somehow it got twisted around and it's set up for extrinsic motivation? That could be you're getting paid to do something. It could mean you're getting grades for it. You're working for the grade rather than working for the improvement and the knowledge, the fulfillment you get inside. It can also be you're playing for trophies and championships rather than the love of the game. So when you start taking away those intrinsic feelings that you have, the love of it, the joy of it, the fun of it, when you take that away and you start making it external, what you're doing is you're taking that internal drive that we naturally have and you're putting it externally, and once it's out here, it's kind of out of your control. You don't find it as valuable and you lose your drive. And when you lose your drive, you're less happy. Examples of this are, I've had students who love to read, but then you start assigning them a whole bunch of reading assignments and then they actually stop reading. I find it fascinating that most adults, if they went through high school or if they went through college, most of them do not continue to read beyond their school time. And why is that? Well, maybe some of it was they lost the love for reading. And I know myself when I was in college and taking all these classes, I mean, you're reading to learn, you're cramming all this information in. It's not a lot of fun. But if you can get back to why did you like this in the beginning? Maybe it's gardening, reading, basketball, whatever it might be. If you can get back to that internal reason, like why did I like this in the beginning? What was it about it that stirred me, that got me excited, and tap back into that and less into the external things, the external rewards, you're going to feel a lot happier, and the happier you are, the better you're going to perform. Let's look at I'll be happy when. This is a real trap because when you set yourself up for I'll be happy when this happens, you're setting it so it's like a mirage. You're out in the desert, you're seeing that water, you run to it, you drive to it, whatever it might be, but then you get there, there's no water. Or you're chasing a rainbow. You're at that rainbow, you're looking at it, you're moving towards it, but that rainbow keeps moving further and further away from you. That is the same with this. When you say, I'll be happy when. I'll be happy when I get that different job. I'll be happy when I lose the weight. I'll be happy when I'm in the relationship I want. I'll be happy when I win the lottery. Whatever your I'll be happy when statement is, you're literally taking your happiness and you're pushing it into the future and you're not enjoying it now. A better way is to say, let's enjoy the journey. Let's enjoy the progress as we're making it. When they looked at a study that Harvard did, and it was a 75-year study, and it's still continuing to this day, they've looked at what causes happiness. Is it people reaching the finish line and going, yes, I made it? Is it accomplishments? Is it money? I mean, what is it that made people the happiest? And the study done by Harvard found that the happiest people were the ones that had deep, meaningful relationships. So relationships was the thing that trumped everything. That was the one key factor that if you have strong relationships, interpersonal relationships, business relationships, work relationships, friendships, whatever it might be, if you had those and they were strong, then you did really well and you felt happy. If that wasn't there, if you felt like you were a loner or you didn't really have a lot of deep connections, then you were less happy. And that is over 75 years, which is a long time to get a lot of data on different generations of people. They looked at the first generation and then their kids and then their kids. So they have a lot of data on that. For myself, when I got my college degree, I got a bachelor's degree and then I got a master's degree. When I got those, that was like a big accomplishment. Both of those were big accomplishments. But it seemed like immediately after that, or even before I graduated, people were asking, when are you going to get a job? Where are you going to move to? Where are you going to live? And I just noticed way back then, I would have something that was a major accomplishment, but then people were always looking at what next. And I'm not opposed to what next. If you look at my video on Buzz Aldrin, we do need to have goals and we do need to have what next. We need to have another goal, another mountain, another accomplishment that we're working for. But we also need to enjoy, appreciate, and have gratitude for what we are accomplishing and what we just accomplished, and just kind of enjoy that a little bit rather than just speedy moving on to the next thing. Because I hear people all the time, they will talk about, are you guys getting married? And then a couple gets married, and then what's the next question? When are you guys going to have kids? It just seems like we're always looking into the future rather than enjoying the present moment and having gratitude for that moment, gratitude for that journey that we're on. So how do you fix this? There's 3 areas, and we've already talked about them, but let's look at how it applies to you. The first one, autonomy. Where in my life do I feel stuck or have a lack of control? Remember, each of these 3 components are huge, and it only takes one of them to start sabotaging yourself. So if you do not feel that you have autonomy, you do not have control or power, that is something you need to work on and improve. Because if you don't build that up, if you don't get some autonomy and some control, you're going to be feeling miserable, and more likely you're going to be acting up. And I've talked about procrastination, self-sabotage, doubting yourself, worrying, anxiety, fears. All these things are going to be creeping up when you don't feel that you're in control of yourself. So that's the first one, is autonomy. Next, let's look at competence. Am I growing and improving or staying stagnant? I know for me, progress is huge. When I'm making progress, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling alive. I'm feeling like, yes, this is working. We're making it. When I am just flatlining, I'm just not feeling that great. Or if I'm going backwards, I'm feeling even worse. Like if my health is getting worse, I'm like, my goodness, what's going on? But when I'm reaching my goals or some milestones, I'm feeling a lot better. So for you on competence, are you getting better? Are you making progress? Are you picking up more skills, more talents, more abilities, more things that you're improving your mastery and becoming better and better? Because if you are, that's great. If you're not, it's going to be another area where negativity, doubt, self-sabotage start creeping in, and then you're going to have feeling less happy, which leads to poor behaviors. So they're just kind of, they're so tied together here. The third one is relatedness. Do I have deep, meaningful connections with others? One thing people notice about me is that I have friendships from all the different aspects of my life. I've stayed in connection with a lot of people, and I really value those friendships and those connections. I can look back to my time in high school, and I still have friends from high school. College, still friends from college. My first employment, I still have connections there. And as you go through, it's like I have connections all along the way. Now, am I such a great special person? No. Did I realize that happiness was tied to relationships? No, I just kind of stumbled into that. But I do realize that the better your relationships are, the stronger your whole life is going to be, and you're going to feel so much better. When I have deep connections with people, it could be colleagues, students, friends, whatever it might be, it just magnifies the good, and it takes the bad and it kind of cuts it in half. It's really a powerful thing, the friendships and the relationships you have. And if you don't have those, just realize that's another one of these 3 areas that could be sabotaging yourself. I want to end with a cautionary tale, and that is, you've probably heard the story about crabs in a bucket. If crabs are in a bucket and one tries to get out, the other ones grab it and pull it back down. For you, if you're around people who are miserable, who tend to self-sabotage themselves, who tend to doubt themselves, it's more likely that you'll start having that become normal for you. So be real cautious. And am I around people who are making progress? They feel in control in their life. Am I around people who are deep, meaningful connections with me and others? Am I around people who are doing the things that I want to do? Are they growing? Are they improving? Are they getting more skills? Because if not, the opposite is they're deteriorating. There's two states you're doing. You're either growing or you're declining. And are the people around you, do you have some people around you who are growing, who are inspiring you, who are lifting you up, who are encouraging? Because if not, their negativity will impact you and it will affect you. There's been lots of research on how the 5 most influential people in your life, how that affects your income, it affects the language you use, it affects where you travel or don't travel, what your beliefs are. It's really, really significant. So in this, remember that this happiness is not about comfort. It's really about building deep, meaningful connections, building mastery so you have skills, and also it's about growth and progress where you feel that you're in control. Because when you feel in control, you're growing, developing your mastery, and you have deep, meaningful connections. What more is there? I'd really love to hear some comments on this, what your thoughts are, and if this whole thing right here, if this made sense to you, if you're like, yeah, I do need to see am I happy or not? And how is that affecting my behavior? I'd love to hear your comments. Remember to subscribe if you haven't, write a comment, click the like button, all those good things that YouTube loves to keep the algorithm going. Until the next video, all the best to you.